Hey guys, Stick Bow Fit Mama here, and today we're going to dive into the two most common traditional style bows. There are more than these, but if you're just getting into this sport, these are going to be the two most common that you will see and that you will get the chance to shoot and hopefully acquire someday. Now, I will say I am definitely more partial to the longbow, but let's see if you guys can pick that up. There are two major differences between the two. That's going to be your design and your shooting style. And what that's going to come down to is what you prefer. Neither of these is better than the other. That's what makes this sport so much fun. And I can tell you, I shoot Black Widow, and my grandpa shoots mostly Tolkien bows. It is so funny when I pick up, and I love Tolkien bows, but I will pick up one of those and I will shoot it, and I will shoot completely different than when I pick up one of these. Honestly, I can even tell you I shoot different between these two bows. It will take me a little bit of adjusting because one is a higher poundage. And so the other one, my arrows, if I get used to shooting the lighter one, I will notice my arrows drop. And so I've kind of come into a common practice with the two. I hunt with my recurve and I shoot competition with my longbow. We will go into why, but that falls into both design and shooting style. So let's dive in. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the design. Now, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you were to look at both of these, I think you could tell which one was which based on the limbs. Now, this bow here on top, you can see the almost more of a D-shaped. It is very traditional with kind of a straight limb. Not to get confused with the D bow. I don't need anybody in the haters in the comments, but there is a D bow out there, but this has that D shape. Now you can also tell on the recurve here that it does have this curved limb, making the name the recurve. Now, both of these are going to play into the shooting style, and both of them will play into the power given from the bow, but it will also play into things like the hand shock. It will play into the noise given from the limbs in the bow. So these are going to be, I wouldn't say I pick one over the other. Well, I take that back. I don't shoot my longbow as much anymore in my tree stand because it is, well, long. It is 64 inches. Now, that being said, for example, like I mentioned, Tolkien bows, they're pica, they have a 54 inch. And you can get these in all different sizes. So if I wanted to shoot a longbow and I wanted it in my tree stand, there are definitely options to stay that route. Now, I've also found that the recurve, in this case for me with the bows that I have, my recurve has more power behind it. And that's what we're gonna get into for the shooting style. Now, backing up 1 second, the design, it's going to come down to practicality. Now, if you have a 64-inch longbow, I can tell you it's a lot harder to get that for limb clearance in a blind. So for me, shooting bear, I would use my recurve. My recurve is 58 inches. It's a little bit shorter when it's strung. And I don't typically have any issues with clearance in a ground blind for that. I have no issues storing that and holding that in a tree stand. It's much easier. I have hunted with my longbow in a tree stand. I did it for the first 3 years. No issues there. I do notice that I have a harder time. I guess I'm more self-conscious about the clearance on it. At the base of my stand and hitting, if I'm in a certain angle, will the limb hit the back of the tree? But those are all things you're going to learn and you're going to practice and you're going to get used to, honestly. So let's go ahead and dive into the shooting style. Now, I will say, and I'm sure plenty of people will argue this, but given my experience, and I have been doing this for a while, and I am a woman, hate to break it to you, but I will say that being a woman shooting a longbow, I have a lot of people like, oh my gosh, wow, that's so impressive. And everyone always said that shooting a longbow was harder than shooting a recurve. But I would have to argue that. I truly think that shooting a longbow is more forgiving. It has less hand shock, and it's honestly much easier to shoot accuracy-wise, I think, for beginners. Now, I don't know if it's part of the limbs, the riser. I will say the reason I started with traditional archery and shooting a longbow was my very first bow that I was shooting was a bear, and it had this huge riser. And if there's going to be another video with basic terminology, so I will link that below, and I would really, really, really recommend watching that and then maybe coming back, because I'm going to talk about a lot of this terminology that might be kind of foreign for everyone if you're getting into this sport. What the riser is it's the grip here on your hand where you hold the bow. Now, this isn't a good example because I had this one made with the Toby grip, so it is identical to my longbow, which is why I shoot this recurve. I don't have any other recurves because their risers are I have small hands, they're so big in my hand that I was constantly, when I would release, the hand shock was causing me to shoot to the right. And after a long day of a competition shoot, 40 targets in or whatever you're doing that day, it really wears on you. And so that was the main reason I got into longbows. Longbows have a much more stealthy riser and a smaller grip for your hand. That being said, too small also will cause issues, and so you just kind of learn. Like I said, I really hope you have the opportunity to go to an indoor shoot or a local club that you have, and a lot of times there's amazing people, especially at like a traditional only shoot. You're going to have a lot of amazing people who are going to offer you the chance to shoot one of their bows or try something different, or if you jump in with the crowd and just say, hey, would you mind if I try shooting a couple arrows through that? Most of the time they'll give you their arrows, but the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to owe them a $12 arrow. So I recommend anybody who ever shot with me or will shoot with me, I absolutely, without a doubt, I mean, that's a common practice. You're passing bows around. And if you don't do that and you're a traditional shooter, it makes me think you're a compound shooter. All right, let's get back into the shooting style. So the shooting style, like I said, more forgiving shooting a longbow, I truly think. It is easier on the person, especially a woman, I think, with kind of our weaker wrists and hands that we have. I think there's a lot less hand shock, which is the vibration when you release your arrow. Some bows you'll shoot and man, it just kills you. These both are pretty dead in the hand. You'll hear that term. I don't get any hand shock. And another part of that is also sometimes, like on this one, I have double the silencer, which can help with the vibration. Again, it's all about preference, honestly, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to show the different options that are there, so I hope that you can find one that works for you. Now, recurves, I will say, they typically will pump out an arrow a lot faster. They have a much greater... A lot of times what people will say is because of the way that the limbs are made, they have a greater ability to store energy, which means that you're going to have more power when you release your arrow that is going through the limbs. And so a lot of times that means it will, I don't know how else to put it, but they just pump them out. A lot of times you don't even see them release. Obviously, if you're shooting from like 40 yards away, you're going to see it. But most commonly with traditional, you're shooting about 15, 20, 25 yards at most. And so there is that. When it comes to recurves, because of the stored energy in the hands, I do notice a lot more of a hand shock when shooting recurves. But it's a preference. It's all about preference. And if you don't have something to compare it to, you're probably not ever going to know the difference. So in conclusion, whether you go longbow or recurve, I really don't think you are going to make a bad decision. There is so much to shooting traditional, yet there's so little. You shoot a compound, and there are so many parts and pieces to it, and room for error. A lot of times people think of a compound as how accurate you can be, but given the power for the accuracy, there's a lot of opportunities to make a mistake. And so when it comes to shooting traditional, the people are amazing. I love my traditional crew and the atmosphere. And here's the thing, if you're hunting, you're 15 yards from an animal. Like, there is nothing like that. Take it from me, sometimes you get so dang close and you're just in such awe that you kind of get your hunting. And other times you just don't even have an opportunity for a shot. But at the end of the day, shooting traditional is more of a lifestyle than it is anything else. Put in the garbage, please.
Okay.
It's more of a lifestyle than shooting anything else. And whatever you choose, you're going to love it. I just know it. I know it. But stay tuned. I'm going to post another video, like I said, about basic terminology on these. And there's going to be some more about different techniques and gear and things that you will need when you shoot traditional. Like I said, it's minimal compared to a compound. So thank you guys for tuning. Please like and subscribe, and let me know if you guys prefer a longbow or a recurve. I love getting the feedback on that. A lot of people, I find there are a lot more recurve shooters, but I think that's because there's a lot of people who haven't had the opportunity to shoot a longbow. So let me know what you shoot and stay tuned. Thanks, guys.